Math 100, Lesson 11-2, the quadratic formula. So in Lesson 1, we talked about the square root property, and then we did the distance and midpoint formulas. Now we're going to do the quadratic formula, and what it's used for is to solve a quadratic equation. And so a quadratic equation has this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now we have also learned how to factor those problems, and sometimes we get to problems that won't factor, and we have so far been calling them prime. So now what we're going to learn is that if we have a quadratic equation, my first effort usually is to factor it in order to solve it. But if my directions say, hey, let's use the quadratic formula, or if it just says solve, and I am struggling to factor, maybe it won't factor. So we're going to solve this one using the quadratic formula. So first I want to identify, is it equal to 0? Yes, it is. Is it in the correct form? Ax squared plus bx plus c. And in this case, it is. So now I'm going to identify what are a, b, and c. My a is 2, b is 9, and c is -5. And so the quadratic formula actually is a formula to help us find x. It is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then all of this divided by 2a. So that is actually our quadratic formula. It helps us find the value of x. So in this equation that I have, 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0, this is why I need to identify a, b, and c, because now I'm going to plug them into that formula. So x is -9, because it does say -b, plus or minus the square root of whatever your b value is squared, minus 4 times a times c. And then all of that is divided by 2 times the a value. So there's the first thing, is actually plugging it in where it belongs, all of our values. And now we just have to do all the arithmetic. So I'm going to start under that radical, 9 squared, right? And then when I multiply -4 times 2 times -5, I end up with +40. Now if you make a sign error there, it's going to mess up the whole problem. My denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm going to keep going under that radical. (81 and 40 is 121. Now I can take the square root of 121. It is 11. All right, so once I'm at this place, now I'm going to use that plus or minus. So it says x is equal to -9 plus 11 divided by 4. That's going to be one of my answers. My other answer is going to be -9 minus 11 divided by 4. That's what that plus or minus means. Two different answers. So this one gives me -9 plus 11 would be 2. Simplify that and we get 1/2. Here we get -20 divided by 4, which is -5. So my solution set would be -5 and 1/2. If my math lab just asked you for the x values, that's what they are. -5 and 1/2. So the quadratic formula, to me, the hard part is it in the right form? And then did I plug it in correctly and not make any sign errors? Let's try another one. Okay, so in this particular problem, it is not in the correct form. It is not equal to 0. So I am going to add 6x to both sides. Now there's no like term over here on the left. So when I put plus 6x, I'm going to go ahead and put it in order, descending order. Now it is in the correct form. My A value, my B value, and my C value. All right, so let's use our quadratic formula. So negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 5, all divided by 2 times 3. Now we're going to simplify under that radical. 6 squared gives me 36. And then when I multiply negative 4 times 3 times negative 5, I end up with positive 60. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, I can add that 36 and 60 to get the square root of 96. Now the square root of 96 is not a perfect square, but I can simplify it. So I need to do that. Now I'm going to off to the side. Square root of 96, I can use 16 times 6, which is 4 on the square root of 6. So I'm going to use 4 on the square root of 6 right there. So I've simplified the radical. The next thing I need to do is any simplifying that I can do. Well, here's what I notice. This negative 6, this 4, and this 6 are all divisible by 2. So what that means is I'm going to factor out a 2 in the numerator. I do need to factor it out. Here's what I get when I factor it out of my numerator. Now I can simplify the 2 over 6. 2 goes into itself once, it goes into 6 3 times. So my solution would be negative 3 plus or minus 2 on the square root of 6 divided by 3. Now my math lab will let you type that answer in just like that. It's not looking for a decimal answer. It is looking for a simplified answer. And that is 2 solutions. It will let you type it in just like that because it does have that plus or minus button. But I want to just show you what the 2 solutions are. One solution has the plus in the middle. The other solution has the minus in the middle. Because it says plus or minus. So you can type it in with the plus or minus symbol in my math lab. And that's really all there is to this section with quadratic formula. Making sure that you simplify your radicals, don't make sign errors. And then after you simplify your radicals, make sure that your final answer is simplified. And do it correctly. Make sure you factor things out. Don't just go marking stuff out. And let me know if you've got any questions.